those of you that have a short attention span, don't want a story, and just want to see the meat of the video, here are the main takeoff and landings in this video. The story will begin in about a minute. There are literally probably 1,000 places I could land if I started looking. Every place is a potential landing spot. You just have to scope it out. I like these knobs or small little fingers. They have typically a little bit of an uphill to get you slowed down, and you can just take off by rolling off the edge. On all these places, it wouldn't matter whether it was 11,000 feet or 4,000 feet. You'd be able to tell a little bit of difference because you'd have a little bit more speed on landing. And on takeoff, of course, the airplane would be a little more anemic, but here you just push the nose over and fly off. The higher the elevation, the more likely it is I'm going to take off downhill, even with a tailwind. I'm departing my home strip here today, and it's a welcome relief to get the heck out of here. We've been in this weather pattern where almost every day I wake up, it's fog. And so to get out of here and get over to some clear blue skies is a much needed break from the fog. It really starts to get me down after a while. So I just landed this spot. It's another spot that's kind of on top of the world here in the Johnday River Canyon. I like these spots because you can use the uphill section. You know, it rolls off pretty good, so you can use the uphill section to get you slowed down. This one here doesn't have any big rocks on it, so that's nice. I'm gonna go ahead and walk down it. It's I don't know, it's probably 400 feet long. So from where I'm at, it's a little downhill and there's really no obstacles. It's a little bit of a saddle, so I tend to wait until the bottom of the saddle to start my takeoff, just because I don't want to hit the bottom of the saddle. And then this one here, you know, you can just dive down over the edge. Chucker Flats is actually, you can see it in the distance down there in the bottom. So I'm going to take off now and keep moving on. I decided to come over to my dad's cabin for a few days. I work Monday through Thursday, and so that gives me a 3-day weekend, and I decided that at least 2 days I would come over here, and then I was having such a good time, I made it the full 3 days. It was clear and cold all 3 days. It actually was fairly warm in the afternoons, I would say about 45 degrees. And then I looked at the temperatures, and the nighttime temperatures were dipping down to around 20. I actually wasn't expecting this much snow on the ground when I got here. And fortunately, there was a couple open patches. If there hadn't been, I maybe would have been a little bit concerned about landing late in the afternoon. I haven't given you a progress report on my dad's cabin in a while, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and walk into this nice warm cabin. Got the fire going. All the sheetrock is up now. He's doing tongue and groove on the ceiling. It's not done yet. A lot of the sheetrock has been taped and mudded, but not all of it. And it's just in the first coat. We installed this stove the last time we were over, so that's a nice addition. Kitchen cabinets are in, granite countertop. Bathtub and toilet and sink are in. Water's all hooked up. It's drained right now because of winter. Bedroom's all sheetrocked. Shiplap on that wall. Did shiplap going up to the upper loft. This is going to be a room with probably 2 beds in it when it's done. Anyway, it's coming along. He's not working on it during the winter time. It's just too cold over here. So he shut everything down about a month and a half ago. I don't think he's been over since. I doubt you could get up the road right now with the snow on the ground. But view out the back, not bad, pretty great actually. Haven't seen any deer this morning, which is kind of unusual. Maybe they're down lower with the cold. I doubt it though. Oh, it's pretty cold over here. I knew it was going to be cold in the mornings. I would say it's, I don't know, 15, 20 degrees. I'm walking up to the airplane now, and I'm going to put my Sport Cat heater in so I can preheat it. Probably take a couple hours, and then I'm going to go flying. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this Sport Cat, but I'll show you how I do it. So this is a Cathletic heater by Coleman. I've had it for probably almost 15 years. In really cold conditions, you may want to put the Sport Cat in the night of and let it preheat all night long. If you do it this way, you can usually get 2 nights out of 1 propane canister. For cold weather gear, I tend to spend quite a bit of money on it. It's no fun to be cold, and so I figure if I'm going to buy equipment, it might as well be the good stuff. So today, I'll show you what I have on. I have my Kenetrex boots. I have Kuiu gaiters, Kuiu pants, Kuiu gloves, and a down jacket. This down jacket I think is by Crypto or something like that. I like it. It's got a hood. It's you know, for a down jacket, it's been a good jacket. And then I have my binocular holder by Kuiu. For undergarments, when I layer, then I'll, you know, use a base layer, a mid layer, and then a jacket, and then maybe an outer shell. The bush wheels have no tread on them, so they are pretty slippery. So if you want to make a turn, you really need to use power, kind of like you're on skis, and use rudder to get yourself turned. If you just lock up the tire, typically it'll just kind of slide and you'll continue moving straight versus making your turn. I like to combine adventuring with my flying, and so I look for spots that maybe I can take a hike or see something interesting. And this is the first spot. It's probably on a 10 to 15 degree incline, and then it obviously steepens up the further you go up it. There was really no obstacles. There were some bigger rocks right at the beginning where I set the camera, and then a couple big rocks at the end. I just love these rim rock formations. I was in such great shape during moose season, and it's been, 3 months since I got back, and haven't really done any hiking or any exercising, and man, I'm out of wind. Well, I'm this close, I might as well go to the top now. The top being that rim rock over there. Although I could probably just land up there. Yeah, still can't see the airplane. It's got to be around that corner. Well, I can see the airplane. Parking brake is held. That's a relief. I'm going to turn this off going down through here, I think. So I can use both hands. It's kind of a irrational fear of losing the airplane because the parking brake doesn't hold, and I'm pretty sure it comes from childhood. When I was about 13 years old, I had worked pretty hard to save, I think it was $100 for 2 They were called Tough Wheels. And I was into taking my bike apart and basically working on it. And I'd taken it on vacation with me to a place called Primeville Reservoir. And I was sitting on the very top of Primeville Reservoir, and it was probably 100 feet down. And I had the front wheel off for some reason. And the next thing I know, my wheel goes rolling off the edge of this embankment. And I go running after it, and I see it hit the water down below. And I'm thinking, I just lost my $50 Tough Wheel. Well, at the time, being a kid, I wasn't thinking that the air in the tire would cause it to float. And I was pretty upset. I don't know if I was in tears, but I ran into the camper and told my mom and dad what had happened. And we ran down to the water, and sure enough, it was floating there. And I got a life jacket on and fished it out. Anyway, what a relief. The Tough Wheel floated, I got it back on the bike, and all things were good in Greg's world again. This next little spot that I land is right on one of these fingers, and there are rocks right at the beginning, so you wouldn't want to hit those rocks. But other than that, it's a sweet little spot, and well, it kind of speaks for itself. It's probably one of my favorite spots of the weekend. Unfortunately, I had memory card issues this whole weekend. I also had drone issues this whole weekend. And so the footage that I've put together here is a lot less than the footage that I actually originally recorded. Well, I'm going to take a little hike up to the top of that rim rock. What a beautiful spot. Man, this day just is fantastic. There's just almost not a breeze. I'm probably landing at about 45 miles an hour. Anyway, this spot is a pretty cool little spot here. Just this little knob. I'm gonna hike up there. Well, I'm standing on top of that rim rock outcropping. This is the edge of it right here. You can see my cub down there. North Fork of the Johnday River, stretching both directions. On top over there, I saw probably 100 elk on top of that plateau. Some pretty nice branch bulls. I didn't want to circle and harass them, so I just flew over them and kept going. Anyway, it's getting kind of late in the day. I still have some firewood to cut and other things to do for my evening. So I think I'm going to hike back to the airplane. Maybe look for a couple more spots to land on my way back. This is just too cool a spot not to sit here and take it in. So I'm going to sit here for a few minutes and enjoy the view. It is pretty freaking spectacular out here. Recharges me after being in foggy, nasty conditions for the last 2 weeks. Some sunshine feels really good. So I give you a different perspective from the tail mounted camera. Get to see the flaps and rudder deflections going on as I take off and land this same sweet little spot. I think I'm at about 3,800 feet here in elevation, but you know, the temperature's 40 degrees out right now, so density of altitude is probably down around 2,000 feet. Every single time I fly this little yellow cub, I feel so grateful to be out doing what I'm doing in it. It's probably as free of a feeling of flying that I've ever had. I actually take right off from this sweet little spot and I fly just directly across the river to a uphill knob that I'd actually looked at after departing the first spot that I'd landed. And so I hadn't made a bunch of reconnaissance flights over it, but I pretty much knew that there was one big bump in it, and other than that, it was fairly smooth and no big rocks. You gotta love these Acme shocks when you catch one of those bumps like I just did there. I videoed this same spot with the GoPro 360 mounted on top, so I go ahead and let that run through these same spots, and I pick the shots myself for you. If you were to take off from a small spot up high like this, and you did not have flying speed when you got to the end, the important thing to do is just to push the nose over so as not to stall the airplane on takeoff. The airplane is going to basically accelerate if you push the nose down, and if there's nothing to hit, there's really no concerns. I brought my paratrooper mountain bike along with me, thinking that I might be able to ride either the logging roads or by chance just ride into town from the airport with it. And I actually did on Sunday and picked up brats and came back and had brats for lunch. It was kind of nice being able to ride into town and grab supplies at the store. The paratrooper just barely fits into the front of a Cub when it's folded up. And so as easy as it was to put it into Bushwhacker and take it out each time, not as easy in a Cub. It does work. So by here I would have my full flap set. I'd have my heels on the brakes but not putting pressure on the brakes, and I would touch down and pull back on the stick, modulate brake pressure until I come to a stop, and holding the tail with brake pressure in the air basically. I don't adjust the trim at this point. It's not necessary. I'll actually put a little bit of brake pressure on, pick up the tail with power, and then release brakes and roll. Sometimes I just kind of hit the brakes to bring the tail up and then roll immediately. By the time I'm this far out from my takeoff, I've basically gotten rid of my flaps. In this case, I'm going to land on this other knob, so I probably left a notch of flaps in. You actually see me pull that second notch right there, and right now I'm going to pull the last notch right as I'm on my short final. And again, I've transitioned my heels to the brakes at this point. I've got my hand on the throttle, and I'm jockeying it as I need to basically power to altitude, so I power to my touchdown point. And then once I'm on the ground, that's when I'm really on high alert for anything that I could possibly hit with my prop. So I'm either making S-turns or whatever I need to do to make sure that I'm not going to run something over that I don't see over the nose. As you know, I'm not monetized, and the only way I get any revenue from this is if you go to my website and maybe purchase a hat or a t-shirt. So this is a plug for my website, bigrockslongprops.com. There's the original logo that you can have on a hat or a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. And if you want to support me in that way, it'd be much appreciated. The only downside that I can see to being over here during the winter time, in fact, I think there's actually more benefits than negatives. The air's much cooler. You can pretty much fly all day long. You can hike all day long. It's pretty warm during the summertime over here. 100 degrees isn't uncommon. And so this is actually maybe my favorite time of year to come over here and play. The only issue with this time of year is the days are pretty short and the nights are pretty long. And so I spent a fair amount of time reading my Kindle and watching campfire TV. Well, Dad, I know it doesn't look like much, but your chainsaw is getting pretty dull. But I wanted to leave you with more wood than what I saw when I came. So there you go. Absolutely gorgeous up here. My GoPro battery's just about dead. I keep warming it up in my pocket. This is the highest point. Well, actually, that would be the highest one back there. But I'd have to drop down into that valley. But this is the highest point behind my dad's cabin. Well, this is the furthest I've ever hiked from my dad's cabin. You can see where a herd of elk came through, right through here, going that way. Anyway, it's usually too bloody hot over here to hike this far for me, but this time of year, man, it's spectacular. I've actually landed up here before with my airplane during the summertime. Anyway, we're up pretty high here. Not the highest point around, but it's getting up there. I'm gonna walk over to this edge over here, see if I can see into the bottom of the North Fork of the Johnday, and then start heading back before the snow softens up. It's easy walking right now. It was pretty spectacular. I walked up to the edge and I looked down, and there's these 3 California Desert Bighorn Rams all looking up at me, and I'm thinking they're gonna bust out of there. But in fact, my GoPro camera battery was dead, so I'd been keeping it warm in my glove. They gave me time to get my battery back in my camera before they even really started to move. I mean you no harm, just an observer. I'm really kicking myself though for not having my 35mm digital camera along, because with the long lens, because this was like almost, well, for me, I've been hunting all my life and I've never been this close to California Desert Bighorn Rams. And it doesn't look like I'm very close with the GoPro camera, but I'm within about 35 yards. Look at how they move. Pretty amazing. I can't believe how long they hung around for me. They're all the way out there now. But that was special. Airframes Alaska sells these fuel bags. They're 6 gallons, and I carry 2 of them. and it's enough fuel that it'll get me back to the Dalles if I'm really low.